Hello everyone and welcome back to Recall Gaming. This is the Metal Gear Solid Integral Playthrough Part 3. Or Walkthrough, I should rather change this to, because this is post-commentary and I'm guiding you through the game on normal mode to complete the game on this alternate round, which is a special unlockable feature which mixes up guard routines, giving the game a whole new unique flavour. It's greatly appreciated and I'm really enjoying the mode so far. Now in Part 3 of this video series, we will be covering a lot of backtracking. We're going to have to go and get the sniper rifle to go and save Merrill. Now, there's going to be a few interesting edits with this. I got completely done by these wolves. Now, the first thing you want to do is head right. Don't do what I did, and because you're going to get a chance to come back and explore here with a lot more safety. So don't try and do what I did. I was trying to remember the game, and I got really caught by these two wolves, and yeah, it was an utter disaster. I lost a lot of health here. So much so that I actually went back and read this later, so I could do the sniper wolf fight. Because one of the added things that I've put into this run is I am doing the game, trying to not use any more rations from like pretty much this point on. So boss fights were going to be quite a challenge if I was taking silly damage like this. I wanted to go down there, so the trick is just go right and then down. But you're better off just going straight away to Merrill, because you can do a little trick that I'll show you that will make the wolves basically not bother you. So, very handy trick, and you'll get an even better one later on. But as you can see here, I'm totally screwed because they're waiting for me. So this is the wrong way to basically do it. So, not much for walkthrough at the minute, but it shows you that even if you get this totally wrong, you can still get through pretty much no problem. In terms of where I'm at with the game, in terms of where I personally am at playing it, I've now got to Metal Gear's hangar and just picked up the PAL key for the first time, so I'm up to the second load of backtracking that this game has to offer. And that's probably the worst one. I don't mind the sniper rifle hunt so much, but the key card freezing and heating up, man, that's not my most loved thing in a video game, I have to admit. It's a bit much. But there's not too much to talk about in terms of when we get, so I'll go off on a few tangents to speak about something else on this one, because you're going to be going through areas that you've pretty much already done. This is the big thing, though. Make sure you have, the cardboard box. Punch Merrill, equip that cardboard box, make a note of which cardboard box that is, and you can then go past the wolves really easily because they've pissed on it. Because they pissed on it, they won't attack you because they love their piss. Something like that. Some Kojima nonsense. Him and piss, a delightful combination. I mean, remember having it in Death Stranding when it was a thing where you had to pee and you could use it as a weapon? Yeah, a lot of fun, that. Something else. But yeah, Merrill at this point will be shot, so we then have to backtrack all the way to the tank hangar, which is a long way back. And I'll never forget, as a kid, first time through, I was like, "Are you serious, game?" It was not a lot of fun. And what's funnier, even funnier, is you're going to end up going even further back, or pretty much the same spot later on anyway, straight after this fight. So they do push their limit with the backtracking. But in terms of backtracking, it's definitely one of the weakest aspects of this game. They got it much. Thankfully, Kojima very much learned his lesson in the Metal Gear series. I don't really ever recall backtracking really coming up that much. MGS 2 had you doing a lot of backtracking, but it was a much more in a Resident Evil style of way, which is a much better. And it was like the big shell, you were moving around the compound a lot, but it wasn't like a straight shot back and forth and then back and forth again. This was the shell, and you move into different struts in different routes. It was a much more interesting way of doing it. And as I say, backtracking isn't inherently a bad game design choice. It can be frustrating at times when done like this in Metal Gear, which I would argue is very much the wrong way to do it. But when you look at something like Resident Evil, the original ones, 1996 to, 2002 with the Resident Evil remake, their backtracking is done brilliantly. And as I say, there's a lot of fun to be had with something like Resident Evil's formula, where you start the game off as this, lost little puppy, not having a clue where to go. You've got absolutely nothing to your name, and then by the end of it, you've got that map laid out in your head. You know exactly how the Spencer Mansion works, the RPD works, and Raccoon City more or less in the third one. And as I say, you go from really starting out like this frightened little mouse, and by the end of it, you've got keys for every door. You're throwing keys away because you've opened every room. You've got loads of gear, and it's a great little system. And it was a formula for Capcom that worked really well. You think it's like how Ubisoft really exploits the whole going to a point, and I had to flip that guard. I could have possibly ran past that guard without doing that, But I was very much in hyper mode at this point, so I was just like, I'm just going to go for it and see what happens. I probably didn't need to knock the truck either. I probably could have just run past, but yeah, it kind of broke my rule of interacting with guards. So this is like the one room where I felt like I had to interact with guards. As I say, I wanted to do it cleanly, but I just didn't see a way for me to actually possibly do that, unfortunately. So unfortunately, I interact with a guard there, but it'll be the same when I come back because I just can't get past that guy without having to do something. But yeah, as I say, going back to what I was saying, that game companies have formulas, and Ubisoft very much relied on their formula of going to a watchtower, eagle viewpoint, and doing a tick box, a literal tick box of things. And it worked for them for a few years before we all got bored of it. And Resident Evil was the same because they brought that style over, not just Resident Evil, but Devil May Cry, Onimusha. And again, it was a thing where people did start getting really bored of it eventually, and they had to then change gears with particularly Resident Evil 4. And even Devil May Cry kind of ditched its style and found its own style rather than just being a Resident Evil knockoff in a lot of ways. Because DMC1 is a Resident Evil game in many aspects, not in terms of combat. They got the combat nailed down pretty quick. And don't make this mistake. That was a shocker by me to get caught by the camera there. But I'm coming up to a point where I had to edit it because getting this mine detector is a work of art. And I was on it for a good 25 minutes. And because it had been causing me such grief, and I messed up the spawn point because I tried to backtrack to another direction, it meant that, and I'd not saved, it meant I had to redo all this, and when I redid it I didn't take any damage. So that's why after this cut I'm going to have a lot more health upcoming, and I'll talk you through the mine detector because there's a little bit of nuance to that. As I say, if you're playing this on yourself and you're not fussed for the mine detector, don't bother with it. I wanted it for the Vulcan Raven fight, and the whole point of this playthrough, or walkthrough rather, was to show you how to get pretty much all the items that at least mattered, that were going to help you get through the game. So that I went to real painstaking lengths to get you that mine detector, so I hope you appreciate it. But now that I just think in terms of backtracking, as I say, I think it's something that Kojima got a hell of a lot better at because, I think it was a done thing in 1998 and he was trying to chase trends as such, or just do it because everyone else did it. MGS3 didn't really feature backtracking, neither did MGS4. And of course, MGS5 for its own kettle of fish entirely with being an open world game, which again was like Kojima chasing more trends, which works to an extent, but then other extents it really doesn't work either. But anyway, I'm going to shut up briefly because I'm going to talk you through this mine detector. There's the other cardboard box. There is a cardboard box C or B later on, and they're actually obviously good hiding spots, but they're really good for helping with the backtracking. You can use the trucks to fast travel. But I tried to get straight away to the end door that has the mine detector. Realised I cocked up, so I had to pull back and watch the guard's routine. And I must have been on this little mission side quest of getting this mine detector for a good 20 minutes. It was not a fun time, not an enjoyable one at all. But eventually we did get it, and unfortunately we do have to mess with this guard. I couldn't do it cleanly by trying to slip past his pattern, and I'll explain to you why when we get to that point. But just know I just couldn't do it. I was trying a long time here. I tried all sorts, like altering the guard routine by going up the ladder up there. But anyway, make sure you tap in R1, and because if you tap R1, you don't make any noise on the noisy floor, and therefore, the guard's not going to turn around and see you. The thing that makes this tricky is I think the guard's AI is very odd. The minute you go in this room, his pattern will now break. He'll follow the same general pattern, and that should give you ample opportunity to sneak past. But every time I left this door, he'd turn around and see me. It's obviously a scripted thing on the integral mode that he will turn around and look in your direction the minute he senses this door open. And it's really frustrating because I felt like I should have been able to sneak past it and the game just wouldn't allow me. He wasn't being alerted by the noise because there was no indication of that by a red cone, red vision cone or anything like that. He just turned around. It was like part of his pattern. It was an absolute nightmare. And I did come up with a good strategy here that I felt involved using the cardboard box and then flipping him. It took a few times to get right, and I've included all the failed attempts because I think it's right to show it. But the door, in order for the guard to hear you when knocking on the wall here, the door has to be open. So just bear that in mind here, and I should get one opportunity at it here. Just wait for it, as we all wait in bated breath. I was half tempted to speed this section up, but I thought that wasn't the right way. You can see I left the room to try and get him to turn around out of interest, but bad idea. I open the door, knock on it, he hears it, immediately quit the cardboard box, because in this game, they won't lift it in normal mode, so he's going to just say, what's just a box, turn around. I tried to punch him, completely fluff my lines, and I'm going to do that a few times here. But that is the general strategy. As you see, it's thankfully when he gets away, it's easy to just replicate. And I say every time he's just going to say, just a box, turn around, cock it up again. You just kind of got to have no fear and go for it. But I was like just getting frustrated at this point. But I got an easy loop, so if I failed it, I was straight back to trying it again. If you're not someone who's too confident, this playthrough is probably not going to help you, because at times strategies like this require a lot of confidence, I would say. I wish there was a surefire way of getting this to work, but unfortunately not. But I mean, if you're not too confident dealing with enemies, you're probably not trying a no interaction challenge either. You're probably just shooting them with this SOCOM suppressor, which is what you should do to avoid this BSAI. And again, I try it again. That time I did get him, and then I run like hell and just get away. The big advantage of Metal Gear Solid 1 is there is no caution state, because so the fact that the guard has just been punched and kicked, it has no bearing. He's not going to call in for reinforcements or mention that there's some guy lurking about. He's just going to leave it and be like, oh, that was weird, and move on with his day. Highly appreciated in MGS 1. Obviously, MGS 2, N3 and 4 and every other game, that'd get you not an alert, but that would get you certainly a caution. But with it, we have the mine detector. If you're not bothered about the mine detector, just leave. And that's it. That's all you have to do. Now we've got to go back down to the armory and go get the PSG-1. Dealing with this guard is honestly one of the easiest things ever. Just avoid his patterns and go and just go down the elevator, basically. Simple stuff. I just want to add that I am trying to talk ever so slightly less in response to that comment on my first first part, because it has stuck with me, the fact that, yeah, I can half talk. But hey, that is the channel, that's what it's all about, right? But anyway, I'm going to have to talk you through this. B2. This has always been a tricky room, and it's still tricky on Integral. In fact, I would say that the middle section is almost impossible to almost get to. Please go into the destroyed areas that you've already been in to get some C4. It will come in use for the Vulcan Raven fight if you're that way inclined. I actually cut out a big chunk of exploring here from me because it ultimately led to nothing. I went to the room near where you fought Ocelot, and then there was another C4 area that I didn't blow up for stone because you don't have enough. And in there's a couple of level like 6 doors or level 5 or something. And because I didn't have a level 6 card, I was like, oh, well, I won't include it. So I just cut it out entirely, which helps me keep this video just a little bit shorter. And basically, I had to really pay attention to this guard's routine. And what's going to happen here is I'm going to go all the way to that door, go in, and then like I'm going to edit it as if I just come straight back out. Because, as I say, I realised that there was no need for me to go in there. Now, you can get pretty close here to this hut. I think this is the hut you need to go in. So the two guards are watching it pretty well. But if you stand here, the guard can't see you. So you've got a really easy chance to slip in and also run past. Which is what I'm going to do here, I hope. No, I'm just going to wait again. Sometimes Metal Gear gameplay can be a bit dull when you're watching a player like this who doesn't really know what he's doing. I think, did I do something on MGS 5 Ground Zeroes? On the recall files? I can't remember if I did that on this channel or not. If I did the main op. I'm not sure I did. But, you know, if I'm not too confident or it's been a while, it can look really sloppy and out there. But yeah, put the thermal goggles in here because these laser lines are not drawn too well and you can get stuck on the pathfinding and get a really easy alert. So what I tend to do is I use first person mode to line up Snake correctly. So get yourself down inside the grid. Somehow don't set it off. Adjust yourself there first person and then crawl through. Unless you're a speedrunner, in which case you're not watching this. You guys can just sneak through as you are. But I've set that off on an easy alert too many times to count. It's extremely frustrating. And make sure you never have your level card equipped because you'll open that door, the guard will turn around and it'll be all hell breaking loose. But now we have the sniper rifle. That guard decides to go up, which is very handy. And this is when I will go through that door and then come immediately out, cutting about 5 minutes of backtracking. But I say, I think you really see the joy of playing this game on Integral here because, you know, it's all just changing and I'm having to adapt because some of these rooms I've never played Integral before ever. So some of these guard patterns really have me quite in a sticky patch. This guard's pretty easy to dodge though. Just hide behind there and then run. job done. I wanted to get in all the huts and get all the stuff, but there was only really the sniper rifle you need, so I just left it and got myself out and off to have the sniper wolf fight. Which, in case you're wondering, will be the end of this video. Well, just a bit. We'll include a little bit after, as we are now going to make the long trek back. And with the long trek back, I can talk about other things for a few moments. I was going to talk briefly on Death Stranding. I think that was on my mind because I'm someone who did enjoy Death Stranding, but I can totally understand why a lot of people didn't. It was a very out there game experience. I think I enjoyed Death Stranding just for the simple fact that it was unique, and we're not getting unique video games at the time. At this time, I should say, rather not at the time. It's very much still an ongoing thing. You know, video game design will always be quite ubiquitous because game companies will find a formula that works, like we were talking about backtracking earlier and Ubisoft's formulas, and they'll very much stick to them because it works. And you know, even in the 90s, people wanted a successful video game to make money. It's even worse now because games now have these filmic budgets and they can't take the risk you can take now. Video games just seems so small unless you are Hideo Kojima, who's already got a lot of goodwill built up with a company. You're not going to be able to take that risk anymore, and it's really sad to see. You know, it's kind of there is a Death Stranding 2 coming out, isn't there? But I've got a funny feeling that Sony might be a little bit more on that one, or really wanting something a bit more surefire hit. I mean, will I be there for Death Stranding 2? I don't know if I will be, because, you know, I enjoyed Death Stranding, but I don't think I need it again. I would really like to see Kojima do something else, because I always thought the whole point of one of many points getting away from Konami was to not get bogged down with sequels. Kojima always talked about how he hated doing sequels. He never wanted to do a Metal Gear Solid 2, you know. I mean, I say like he was forced to do it. I'm sure he enjoyed getting very handsomely paid to do it, but he would have, I think, got the impression rather worked on something else. I think he was okay doing 2 and 3, but by the time he got to 4, he was definitely done with the series. Like, he always still enjoyed making the games and wanted to expand on the story, but the energy was just not there again after 3 at all. And, you know, they still put out some quality games in 4, Peace Walker and 5, but they're just nowhere near the same, in my humble opinion, which is a shame. As I say, nothing to note about sneaking past the stream, by the way. Just do with the same strategy you did before. And so Death Stranding, you know, really felt like Kojima finally got this chance to sort of explode and be something different, and he totally went for it. I mean, Death Stranding is one of the most unique game experiences I've ever had. Took me a while to get going. I remember it was like the first time you had to like sneak into like a little enemy outpost and pick something up, and like the game, because it's all about being like online and social interaction, there had been like footprints left of a path that a previous player had done to sneak past the guards, and at that point I was like kind of all in on this adventure, and it was, I can't tell you what a fun experience it was at times because it was all online and social, like building this mega bridge, and I was contributing resources, but it looked like other players online as well had been contributing to it, and it was such a cool experience to like then. The way the game's made is it feels like you finish it off because you have to be the one to finish it off, but you will get it from other players who are in a similar position in the story as you, get to that, you know, sort of help build a bridge together. And that, because that ties into the whole theme of the game of, you know, uniting and building bridges. I think you are literally called sand bridges, aren't you? Something like that. And those were just the most magical moments in the game, not the shootouts in World War One, World War Two, or Vietnam settings. Those are fine, they're standard, but those are the moments that were truly unique to Death Stranding, and finding someone else's base and the pop song, I've forgotten what it's called now, it was a great J-pop song, I think it's Pop Virus, that was amazing, and yeah, that just made the game totally. But anyway, Sniper Wolf, tough fight, make sure you got your Diazepam equipped, you're going to want 6 most likely, so I've shown you how to get 6, so make sure you follow that. And the Sniper Rifle is a tricky one in MGS1 because there's no movement with it. There won't be any movement with Sniper Rifle properly until MGS3 anyway, and even then it was limited. MGS4's way it become half decent to use. In MGS1 it's the worst though because you are just laid down on the floor, you can't move, and the shaking of the hands is nightmarish to say the least. So I'll go through a few tips, but at this point I'm kind of just waiting for Sniper Wolf to move in a better position, and I think I might beta by running over to the left side momentarily, we'll see. So there you go, yeah, I moved to the left to try and beta to just move. I just want a decent position with cover. I try and get as close to the pillar as possible. This area does have its limitations though, but this is definitely the run that worked. Now, when she's by that pillar, I use the D-pad because I find it makes it a little bit easier. And as time's gone on, I've realised that you can hit Sniper Wolf while she's moving, so I might try and get one here. She decides to move. I do recommend just spraying at times. I mean, you don't get much ammo, but it's worth spraying just to try and catch her off guard because you do massive damage with the sniper rifle. So even though Wolf looks intimidated with a health bar, you can easily chop her down. In this position, line up here and then use the D-pad to move across when she pokes herself out because the D-pad just gives you a little bit more control. Unless she does that. But as you can see, I'm spraying there. I'll have another, let's see, another poke shot there, get a bit of decent damage in. Catch her in the head, and that was it. That was fight done. And that was incredibly smooth. And believe you me, you're probably not going to do that first time. That comes from doing this fight a lot and knowing how it works. Because I died a lot doing that fight. Well, not a lot. Like, maybe 3 times. And so it just shows you that, you know, if you're struggling, just hang in there. Because every time you fail, you're learning a pattern more and more. So there's never a point stressing this with that fight. You'll get there eventually. So just keep your head up. Eventually it will come good. Make sure you get all the resources here. And I'm going to include something unique in this part upcoming as we come towards the end here. Highly recommend, and I'll show it here, saving your game. Save here because if you do not know, if you die into Ocelot or the Torture, easily done it by cocking it up or getting cocky, you don't get to continue. You have to exit, go to the menu and load your last save point. One of those crazy little Kojima touches. And obviously you're going to lose a hell of a lot of progress if you do that and cock it up. So do yourself a favour, save here, unless you're going for some kind of special big boss run or something like that. Or I don't know, or a single run without saving or something mad like that. But you won't be watching this video in that case. So I'm going to show it here. I saved here just to make sure I have that in the bank. And one of the funny things is that Mailing actually says like, oh, I think you should save because I've got a funny feeling. And again, all those little touches that Metal Gear have that just help it make it feel extra special. Walk to this door, immediately get spotted. It's a good job because you didn't have the keycard anyway. I included this because the Torture, I decided to immediately give up. And yeah, I decided to go for the Otacon ending because I like the Otacon ending. I just prefer that ending. And I like getting the stealth camouflage. I found that a lot of fun to play with. So here we are in the cell with Johnny Sasaki. Again, I'm going to show some codex. Call Campbell because I think that progresses things on. I think this is a mandatory codec conversation. It's going to happen anyway, so you might as well initiate it. And after this, we'll call Otacon, and that'll get us moving out of this cell. Because I give up to Ocelot, you can get on with the section straight away. There's not really much waiting on here, which is a good relief. I think one of the main disappointments of MGS5 is there wasn't any sort of capture or torture sequence, was there? At all. All the other games have got it, even Peace Walker. You know, obviously this one has this one now. MGS2 Raiden gets captured, MGS3 Naked Snake gets captured. You don't really get captured in the 4th one, but you do have the microwave corridor, which is hellish. Even Peace Walker had a really hard torture sequence for Big Boss. The guy gets captured a lot, does Big Boss. So much for the greatest soldier ever. But yeah, MGS5 just totally ditched that. It was a big disappointment. And I hate skipping codec conversations in MGS1 because you've got to manually press the button each time. Thankfully, on the other ones, you just press triangle or something and it just zooms to the end. So I'll also show myself calling Otacon here, 414.12, ingrained in the brain. And will be for life. So I believe if you knock on the windows, it will make Johnny's stomach go a little bit quicker, or it interrupts his pattern to make sure he buggers off quicker, which is greatly appreciated. Again, I've learned that through watching speedruns, I believe. Well, it's some knowledge in my brain. I'm not entirely sure where it came from, but it's stuck in there. Don't go under the bed, although that is a good way of getting past this guard. We're also not going to kill Johnny. We're going to try and do this smoothly. But yeah, knocking on the door, I'm sure makes him move that a little bit quicker. But just to sort of wrap up, I hope you guys have enjoyed part 3. Part 4, we'll be moving on. Doing a lot of hardcore action stuff. Where the game's going to very much drop stealth for a little bit. As it is just, you know, like an Arnold Schwarzenegger and Stallone film just all rolled into one. So it's going to get a bit crazy. As you see, guard, Johnny will run off. Otacon's going to come on his way shortly after. There's a lot of different ways this section can play out. If you're really struggling, then Grey Fox will just come out and free you and kill the guard or something, because it just gets fed up. And I think there's something where the guard Johnny will run off to the toilet and he'll just stay in there. You can't get him to come out or something like that. So you don't even risk the alert. Anyway, my strategy here is to sort of position Snake so he's kind of in the door. Equip the ketchup. Press circle, I think, or square, and Snake should, like, release the bottle, and you'll be covered in blood to the guard. I only learnt this a few years ago. As a kid, I had no idea what the ketchup was about. I never figured it out. Again, incredible stuff in Metal Gear games where you don't even know about stuff 10 years, 15 years after playing them. Johnny's going to open the door, and I just immediately press square because I'm basically already on top of him the minute I stand up. And I can choke him out a couple of times, and that'll be him done. I think I flip him to get him done. Yeah, there you go. But anyway, I'm going to stop talking now. The video will end naturally in its own time. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you for part 4. Thanks for watching.